Well, hello, everybody. Hello and welcome in. How's it going? How are we doing on this wonderful Thursday? Welcome to our Thursday Idea Academy stream. This is a product of the Idea Training Academy. We are a comprehensive coaching and consulting company, and we help people become their best selves. So, greetings, former beer review streamer, mods, scalawags, VIPs, and fellow pursuers of moments. Let's go. That's Head of Steel. He's one of our amazing mods for today. If you need anything, definitely reach out to Head of Steel. He will help you out. It's good to see you all here. Welcome in, welcome in. Goat, it's good to see you. Style, of course, I saw you as well. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well today. So, good afternoon. Hey, Phoenix, how are you? Welcome in to those of you who are joining us over on YouTube. Also, don't hesitate to say hi over in the chat there. We love to have you just as well. So let's get started, guys. Are you ready? First of all, let me hear it in chat. What kind of a week are you having? How is the week going? Is it going well? Is it going badly? What's in front of you this week? What are you facing head on? What's the news? For me, it's been one of those weeks. You know those weeks where you start off kind of in a slump and then you get really, really productive in the middle, and then things taper off as you go into the weekend, and you kind of end up or at least the trajectory is that you're going to end up back in the same place where you started. That's kind of where I'm at this weekend, or at this week, where I got super productive in the middle of the week, and then a bunch of stuff hit my desk and it got kind of crazy. So it was going well till today. What's going on, Goat? Tell me stories. Tell me what's happening. You're having a very decent week. I'm glad to hear that, Phoenix. That's really good. It's going quickly, but absolutely not the best. I'm sorry, Style. I'm glad at least it's going quickly if it's not going to be the best. And grinding at the job. We're going to talk a little bit about jobs a little bit later in the stream today, too. But as we're getting started here, guys, I have to tell you, I'm really, really excited to talk with you about the topic today. I am super excited to share this information with you. It is something that I have been sitting on for a long time. I've teased it here and there, but it's finally time for us to have a good chat about it. And don't get me wrong, this material is so deep, we're only going to scratch the surface today, but there's no possible way I could get as deep into it as I want. But we're going to get some really, really interesting stuff. If you've never heard this before, this is going to be revolutionary for you, or revelationary as well. It's going to be a revelation to you. It's going to be a revolution in your inner world, and it's going to change the way you see your communication. And for somebody who's been speaking in public since I was 8, to have something come along that changes everything about the way that I look at communication, that's really unique for me. And that's why I'm so excited to share this with you today. Let me catch up with chat here. It's feeling bad for another person week more other person's week more than anything else. Nothing too bad for you. I'm glad it's not for you, style. But I am also sad that your acquaintance, your person, your friend is having a rough week. I hope that settles in for them. I might have to move to Montana. I don't want to leave my friends. Go. That's rough. Relocation is difficult. We can talk through a little bit about that because that's definitely something that's heavy, right? Something that you got to wade through. Aliman, hello. Sorry I missed your last brew crew. Got a week of early starts and 1:30 was just a little too much. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. It is a late stream for those of you who are in the UK. Made a point of watching it this morning. Great work. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I had a great time with that. For those of you who are just catching up, last night was the last episode of another stream that I used to do that was called the 2 Minute Brew Crew. And we kind of dived into the world of craft beers together and learned a lot about that and did a different sampling and a food pairing every week. And it was a lot of fun. But as with all things, there's a season, and that season is over. We're looking at what's next. And today, that's this. So welcome in. Color me intrigued, Yar. Got us right in the feels. Oh, well, I'm glad that it was meaningful. It was meaningful to me. So welcome in, guys. You know the drill. You are always welcome to drop your questions as we go in your comments into chat. But we also have a what's it called? It's an anonymous page where if you want to drop a question in that's maybe too personal for you to attach your name to, or maybe it's something that just doesn't fit in with the exact moment, and we might get to it on another stream. We do have a venue for that, so let me get over to this. I'm going to share that with you right now. I'm sharing it. There's in the Twitch chat, and then that's in the YouTube chat. You can drop your questions in there. I can see we already have a couple in there, so that's good. Wow, we have a few in there. That's awesome. Good stuff. So we'll get to those. But first, guys, first, I've stalled long enough. Guys, it's right here next to me. And this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about this week. This is the book. It's The 7 Frequencies of Communication, The Hidden Language of Human Connection by Erwin McManus. This book, and I'm not joking, this book changed everything about the way that I look at communication. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is to go buy this book. There is a link in the YouTube show notes. I'll make sure it goes up on the Discord too. It's not expensive. It's kind of a little book. It's not a hard read. It's really, really easy. But again, as somebody who's been speaking in public to audiences since I was 8, it's not very often that something comes around that changes everything about the way that I think about communication. And this book is that. Erwin McManus is an amazing guy. I've been a follower of his for about 25 years. He's written many, many other best-selling books. Super guy, and notably one of the best communicators I've ever met in my entire life. This book breaks down the 7 primary frequencies of communication. So, and again, I'm not going to get into everything in this book today. I couldn't if I wanted to, and certainly I can't say it as masterfully as he can. So I'm going to urge you to get the book and to read it. I believe that quantities are currently limited too, so you want to make sure that you get to that link, you get it early. There's an assessment that goes along with this as well that you can get that is fabulous. It will help you discover your primary frequency, and that's going to be really useful as you read this book. We have pre-order over here. Sorry, style. I know. So in this book, essentially what Erwin is saying is that each one of us communicates at a unique frequency. The whole concept here is that communication is the transmission, not just of information, but of essence. And if we want to communicate clearly to other people, we have to find that frequency that's going to resonate in the situation. And that begins by understanding what our unique frequency is and how that can be used to resonate with others, how we can help them to hear what we need them to hear, and also how we can recognize those frequencies in others and hear what they need us to hear at the same time. So I'm gonna run these down, and again, super high level stuff. 7 frequencies in this book: the motivator, the challenger, the commander, the healer, the professor, the seer, and the maven. Now, you may be asking yourself, before we jump into the book, you may be asking yourself, why would I need this? Why would I need this information? I'm never going to be up on a podium. I'm not going to stand in front of people. Maybe you're terrified of public speaking. Most people are. Maybe that's your hang up. But you're thinking to yourself, I don't really need a book on communication. Let me suggest to you that there's no more important skill that you could possibly work on in your life than communication. It doesn't matter what else you're good at. It doesn't matter where else you're effective, what other skills you have. If you don't have the ability to communicate clearly in a way that will affect other people, you'll never be as effective overall as you want to be, as you need to be. So, focusing in on your communication as a leader, even just as a follower, as a person in a relationship, there's nothing more important you can do than focus on your communication. Sounds like a D&D party. It kind of is like a D&D party, head of steel. And when I write my book on this stuff, no, I will not rewrite a book on this same stuff because it's already been done as well, I think, as it could possibly be done. But when I do get around to writing a book about communication and leadership styles, I may use some D&D archetypes as well. I think it would go great with everyday life and for streaming. So for those of you who are streamers out there, this is vitally important information. There is nothing that's more important. If you are a live streamer, then you are in the business of communication. At the end of the day, I've told you a million times, a lot of people think that you're in the business of whatever your category is. You're in the business of gaming. You're in the business of just chatting or whatever it is that your niche is, but you're not. You're in the business of communication. And so learning this stuff is hyper important. Hello, Rob. Welcome in. It's good to see you here today. We're talking about communication, and specifically, we're going to talk about the 7 frequencies of communication as brought to us by Erwin McManus. I'm going to read real quick a quote from the book just to get us started off. And I'm not gonna go through the book page by page. I would love to do that, but I need you to read the book. I need you to buy and read the book. We need to support this man because this is top-notch stuff. Let me get this. Here we go. This is on page. I'm ready. Let's go. If you're in the book with me, if you already have the book, congratulations. In the book on page 22, he says this: a lie well told can have more power than a truth poorly expressed. If you're committed to speaking the truth, then you must be equally committed to speaking it powerfully. A message is at the mercy of the vehicle that communicates it to the world. If you carry within you a dream, a vision, an idea, or a future whose time has come, you must become a master storyteller. I love that concept about the fact that it's not just about the truth, not just about speaking the truth. If you've got a message, if it's true, if it's important, you can't just be committed to the message. You have to be committed to communicating it in a way that changes people's lives. And that's what this book is all about. So let's walk through. There are 7 frequencies. Let's walk through these. Hit me with your questions as they come. I have read this entire book. I have finished my first read through. I'm going to start my second read through pretty quick here. But hit me with your questions. I'll do my best to answer them that I can. Let's go down the list. Let's start with the motivator, the frequency of the motivator. Now, the motivator is a great frequency. People love the motivator because what the motivator does is it makes people feel good. Specifically, it makes people believe in themselves. So if you know somebody who's a motivator, when they walk into the room, there's already an automatic sense of belief that's brought into that room. There's a sense of just an uplift. Like, things are going to be okay. Like, we've got everything we need to make the thing happen. How can someone that is an introvert apply the frequencies that you mentioned? Phoenix, that's a great question. So, introvert and extrovert has to do with where you receive your energy, right? And the analogy that we usually use is that an extrovert wakes up with an empty cup, and every social interaction that they have puts coins in the cup, and at the end of the day, they have a full cup. Whereas an introvert starts the day with a cup full of coins, and every interaction socially that they have throughout the day takes a coin out of their cup, and they end the day with an empty cup. So introvert and extrovert has to do with energy. where you draw your energy from. Do you draw it from social interaction, or does social interaction take it away and you need to replenish it by spending some solitary time, some alone time? Here's the key: it doesn't matter where your energy comes from. You still have to have those social interactions. You still have to have those moments where you connect with other people. And if you're an introvert and that's more difficult, it's actually even better to know what your frequency is. And it's better to know what other people's frequencies are, because I think that then you can step back and you can say, what's the most efficient path through this conversation? I know that sounds weird, but sometimes that's what it boils down to. With introverts, with introversion, sometimes being social is about efficiency. Now, I'm an extrovert, so I'm not speaking out of my personal experience, but my wife is very much an introvert. And so what I can speak to with her is that when she has to go out and she has to socialize with people, it's better for her to have tools to do that. So it's better for her to create structures and frameworks to feel more comfortable in that moment. And the communication frequencies are one of those. So, really, really good question, but I do think it's pertinent. So, the motivator is the person that brings energy to the room. There, in fact, he writes that their drive is to bring energy to the room. They bring optimism. The motivator brings optimism, right? When you have a motivator in the room, people know that there's a better future out there for them, and they believe that they've got everything they need to make that happen as well. The need that he brings, the high need that Erwin talks about. So he talks about the basic need and the high need that every frequency brings. And he says, the motivator brings they bring energy to the room, but really the high need that they bring is self-belief. So, you all know somebody that brings energy to the room. You know somebody who walks in and the room's full of energy. That's great. But you also probably know somebody who, when they walk in, everybody knows it's going to be okay. That's the motivator. And that's what the motivator needs to work towards. Hi, you're here. Welcome in. Amber, it's good to see you. We're talking about communication frequencies today. So that's the motivator. That's number one. Let's go to number two, which is the challenger. Now, the challenger is the person who knows that everybody can be better and is going to call them out on it. So the challenger is that coach that comes into the locker room at halftime, and the team is up by 21 points at halftime, and it's a complete blowout, and it's the coach that says, "Hey, we need to do better than we're doing. Look at all the penalties we've got, or look at all the yards we left on the table, or all the goals we didn't score." It's that person who's always calling people to elevate, always calling people to be better. Hopefully, you know somebody like this. We all need challengers in our life. We all need people who are going to call us out and call us up, because a lot of the times that's what we need to be driven to the next level, right? And so he talks about the basic need that the challenger brings is the need for courage, because we need courage. How often in your life don't you do the thing because you just don't know if you have it in you to do the thing? How often in your life do you sit back and say, you know what? I don't know I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for this, or I'm afraid to do this. That's the time you need the challenger. You need someone to instill courage in you. I'm going to give you an example. So I'm working with one of the people that I'm mentoring, one of the young leaders that I'm mentoring right now, was at an impasse. She had two different job offers on the table for her within the same organization. It was a transfer of positions. And one offer was to go into a program to work with someone that she knew very well and trusted very closely, to do something that was well within her working geniuses. So it was a lot of tenacity work. She's an ET, a lot of tenacity work, a lot of fine detail work, things that she was going to be very good at, things that were very comfortable for her. And the other was to step into a position of leadership, something that she's never done before. She doesn't have any supervisory experience. It was to work with a group of people, many of whom were new to the organization, And it was to work in the process of building an entirely new program, something that the organization has never done before. And so she's been going back and forth for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. And so today we had a session, we met, and I asked her, I said, be honest with me. Which of these two things makes you the most afraid? Which one of them are you the most afraid of? And she said, oh, by far, the new program. That's the thing that I'm most afraid of. I said, then that's the thing you have to do. Because if you don't do that, if you go back to the place that's safe for you, then you're not going to get to the next level of growth that you know you need to get to. Now, there's a time for retreat. There's a time for being safe. There's a time for being comfortable. But this young leader is at a point where she is ready to elevate to the next step. And in order to do that, she needs to leave the comfort and safety of the known and step out into the unknown. And so I had to step into the frequency of the challenger and tell her, listen, you've got to do this. You can't let yourself go backwards. You are diminishing yourself if you choose the safe. You got to get out there and take a risk. And she, of course, already knew that. She already knew that was what I was going to say. And that's eventually the choice that she made. But it's so important to have challengers in our life because they call us, they give us courage. And the high need is that mandate that they give us, right? It's not just about making people feel brave. It's also about making them understand that there's things out there that need to be done. And if the people who can do them don't do them, and not just do them, but do them the best that they can possibly be done, then everyone is diminished. So the frequency of the challenger is awesome. My wife, I believe, is that she hasn't taken the assessment yet. I believe she has a challenger frequency. I think that's her primary frequency. Number 3 is the commander. And the commander is that person. You may know this person as well. The commander is the person who knows what to do and who is going to tell you what to do. So it's the person who's going to step in and give the orders. A lot of people don't like commanders because a lot of people don't like to take orders. But when used in the right way and in the right time and at the right place, commanders are so vitally important because there comes a time when people just need to be given the direction that they need to be given. I think that one of the examples that Erwin uses is when the ship is going down, right? You don't want a captain who's collaborative when the ship is going down. You want somebody who's going to take charge, who knows what has to be done, and who's going to tell people what has to be done. So the commander is amazing because they provide us with that basic trust that we need. We need to know that there's somebody who knows what to do. That creates great trust. It creates great comfort in us. But the high need is for direction. Because one of the things that we all need in life is we need direction. We need to know where to go. We need to know where the most important things are to attack and to approach. And some of us aren't built for that. So I'll step back to another example using the working geniuses. So I've talked many times about the 6 types of working genius. I'm going to mesh these two concepts a little bit because I believe that they do blend very, very closely. In fact, I believe that if you know what your working geniuses are and you know what your frequencies of communication, your core communication frequencies are, if you can find the intersection between those two things, you will unlock a power that is unlike any other. So we have somebody else in this same organization that it has the genius of enablement and the genius of tenacity. The genius of enablement, those are people who get energy from and really love to jump in and help out. They love to be the person who volunteers. They love to be the person who comes alongside and provides what is necessary. Enablers are awesome. We love them. And people with tenacity, with the genius of tenacity, are the people who love to get things done. They are the finishers. They are the ones who get it over the finish line. They are the ones who are going to check it off their list and it's going to get done. So we love people with tenacity. And people who have E and T together, we call them the loyal finishers because whatever you give them, they're going to get done because that's what they're driven by. Here's the trick, though. ETs, enablement tenacity geniuses, many times don't always know what the right thing is to work on. And so they'll work on things, but sometimes they'll be way off of what actually needs to get done. And sometimes, in fact, they'll get stalled out and frustrated because they're not inventing, they're not wired to invent new solutions and to really ask the question behind the question behind the question. This is an example of where the frequency of the commander is so incredibly vitally important because a strong commander can walk into an amazing room full of ETs and say, "All right, team, here's what needs to get done. Here's who's responsible for it. Let's go get it done." So, commanders can rub us the wrong way when we don't have that trust, when we don't have that layer of trust that says, "Hey, when I'm telling you something, sometimes it's going to sound like an order. It might actually just be a suggestion. It might actually just be an idea that I'm spitting out. But what do we need to decipher that? We have to have trust. We have to have regular communication. So that's the frequency of the commander. They're awesome. We love commanders. We love them all. The next is the frequency of the healer. And the healer is the person who knows that what everybody needs is to be healed, is to address their own wounds. And the healer will usually do that by through vulnerability, through sharing their woundedness with their audience in order to show their audience how their woundedness can be healed. I hope you know a person who's a healer also. I hope you know somebody who's got all of these frequencies. But the person with the healer, they're the person who really makes you feel seen, really feel known, really feel understood. They're the person that makes it feel okay to be a little bit broken and who reminds you that we're all a little bit broken. So if you don't have a healer in your life, you got to seek one out because healers are amazing. They're absolutely the best. Their basic need that the healer fills is the need for acceptance, Erwin says. And that's just what I was telling you. The understanding that we're all a little bit broken, but it's okay. We can accept each other in our brokenness. And the high need is for wholeness, not just acceptance. Because the great thing about the healer is that the healer, when that frequency is used properly, it lifts us to a place where we're not sitting and living in that woundedness. Do you ever do that? Have you ever had anybody tell you to do that? I had a coach once who he was really high on the idea that we just need to sit in our feelings sometimes. And I'm not saying we don't need to feel our feelings. We need to feel them. We need to acknowledge them, but we also have to have a path through them. And the great thing about the healer frequency is that it very gently brings us up and through those broken emotions and into a place where we can eventually find wholeness. So that's why the healer is amazing. That's why we need healers in our life. If you are a healer, if that's your frequency, you're amazing and people probably love you. Next is the professor. I love the professor frequency. I don't have it. In fact, I think it's one of the furthest from me. The professor is the frequency that is convinced that if people just had the right information, that everything would be better. If you could just get the right knowledge to people, it would solve all of the world's problems. The professor is the one who wants to teach you what they know. And it's interesting, a lot of times Erwin says it's not necessarily firsthand knowledge, but these are the master researchers and the people who really they read and understand the studies, the statistics, the stories, the things that are driving everything in the world. And they know that if they can just share the right pieces of that with you, it'll change everything about your life. Professors are awesome. The basic need they feel is obviously knowledge. They're bringing knowledge to the table. But the high need is for competency. And as with everything, competency is an elevation of knowledge. It's not just a knowing what's important, but it's an understanding of why it's important and how it can be applied to real change in the world. So I love that. The professor's great. I don't have that, but I really respect people who do. Not that I don't ever access it. Sometimes I do get into professor mode, but it's not natural for me. And so I don't use it as often as I'd like. Let's see. Style has a question. What about folks that have attributes of all of the seven? Is that more adaptive to the circumstances, or is the point of communication how we best hear it? So, style, the ideal for the the highest elevation of the communicator is to be able to fluidly move between all seven frequencies. So the people who are best at it are going to move. Maybe they're going to bring the healer when they really understand that that's what you need to hear. But maybe also sometimes they know you just need to be told what's what, and they bring the commander. Or maybe they know that you're stuck in a pit and you need to be pulled up out of it, and you need the challenger right now. The best communicators are going to use all seven. So everybody has aspects of all seven. But the idea is that you probably have one primary, one that's really close to you, one that you speak naturally out of, and one that you probably hear the most accurately as well. And then what happens is, as you develop that, as you get really good at that, you begin then to reach for the ones that are closer to it. And you say, okay, well, I'm in the motivator. I do this one a lot. I'm in the motivator, right? I'm telling you guys, hey, listen, here's the thing, guys. There's a great tomorrow for you. You have greatness within you. You can do it. You can access this greatness. And then transition into the challenger, where I'm saying, listen, it is not okay for you to accept anything less than the greatness that's inside of you. Because if you are accepting less than the best, you are letting yourself down, and not only that, you are leaving an important contribution to the world out of your life. That is not an okay place for you to be. You need to gear up. You need to get the skills that you need to move to the next step, and you need to be brave enough to take the leap. That's an example of how you would move, like, from the motivator to the challenger. I do that one a lot. Spoiler alert, those are two of my core frequencies. Or two of my, you have, he says, kind of a triangle. You have one primary, and then you have two that are very close to it. And so those are my two that are very close to my primary, are the challenger and the motivator. So it's very easy for me to move back and forth between those two. Is there some sort of test to determine who's similar to the six geniuses test? Yes, Head of Steel. And in fact, in the link, I will post it for you here, as a matter of fact. Give me a second. I'm going to post the link where you can go and purchase that. Give me a second. Sorry, I should have had this ready, and I didn't. Terrible. Yeah. It's just the sevenfrequencies.com. I'm dropping it in Twitch chat here. And then I'm dropping it also in YouTube chat for those of you who are over there. Let's see. So you can take the assessment. Now, if you read the book, you will probably know. You're probably gonna read it, and you're probably gonna go, "Oh, that's probably my primary frequency." But the assessment is a great assessment. It's very short, 10 to 15 minutes tops. It's very much like the six types of working genius assessment, in that it's statements that you would agree with on a 1 to 5 scale or disagree with, and it seems to be very accurate so far. Aliman says, "I have 2 meetings tomorrow that very much feel like all seven will be required, plus patience. Good Lord, a lot of patience." Well, just like the six types of working genius, I need a poster. I need Erwin to make a poster for this, so that I can also hang up the seven frequencies of communication next to my six working geniuses. All work, when we talk about the six types of working genius, we say that all work is 6-letter work, meaning that, yeah, you know what? Every project is going to require the genius of wonder. In other words, asking the big, esoteric, ethereal questions. We're going to need to do that to get the work started. But it's also going to need tenacity, meaning it's going to need somebody to get it over the finish line. So we need to use all 6 letters of the working geniuses to get any work done, which often means we need to pull other people in. Because, like me, I got no tenacity, guys. I'm terrible at getting things finished. You guys know it. Look at my social media. It's an absolute mess. I don't have tenacity. I'm doing my best to create systems of support around that, but I don't have it naturally. But the same way in communication, at some level, when we're trying to get something done as a group, there's probably a point at which all seven frequencies are going to have to come to play. Now, I haven't thought too deeply about that just yet, because the contexts that I've been devouring this in, and I get to, so I'm a member of the Arena, which is Erwin and his son Aaron McManus. That's their online mastermind group that they created a year ago. And so I get to sit down and listen to those two guys talk every single week about this. And a lot of times we're talking about presentation, about there's a lot of speakers in the group. So if I'm going to get up and I'm going to give a presentation, if I'm going to get on camera here and I'm going to present to you guys, a lot of times we talk about that. I need to do now some more thought about how this functions in a team space, right? About how we apply all seven frequencies. And again, I just read the book once. So I'm giving you the reason I'm giving you like the highlights is because I have so much more thought to do about this before I even know what to do with it. But I'm so excited about it that I could not wait to tell you guys more. So, but that's a good one. Ali, man, the good question for you to ask yourself is, what do you bring as a communicator to that table? What are you going to bring? What are you going to be prepared with? And how can you lean into your core frequency to make sure that when the time is for that to come out, when the time's right for it to be spoken in that frequency, that you're ready for that moment? But that's a really good observation. We're going to go to the next frequency number 6. Hey, Modern Ghost, welcome in. It's good to see you. Frequency number 6 is the seer. The seer is awesome. I have a very good friend who has the seer frequency. The seer is always thinking about the future. They're always talking about the future. They're always talking about where we are going. These are some of the most directional people. Many seers don't even remember the past because they're always so firmly planted in the future. These are the people who are driving us and drawing us into becoming our best selves. I love the seer frequency. I also don't, it's not one of my core frequencies, but I really, really love the seer frequency because I am inspired when someone can paint a real picture of what a great tomorrow looks like. Hedda Steele says, or even what role does the group lack and can I fulfill that role? That's a good point as well, Hedda Steele. That's an excellent point as well. The basic need that the seer brings to the table is vision or hope. These are the people who you say, we need to know what the purpose of what we're doing is. What's the vision of the company? And they're going to tell you, oh, listen, when we do our best work, this is what it's going to look like. That's what they bring. That's the basic need. But the high need is innovation. The high need is not just the picture of the future, but the path to the future as well. It's a complete reimagining of every process that we consider that's getting us down the road, and a complete reshaping of it into something that looks nothing like we would have imagined in the first place. Sound advice? Oh no, thank you, Ali Man. It's an excellent question. I never gave it much thought as to how I communicate. I just communicate my thoughts by either voice or text. Well, Arisen Phoenix, so that's the beginning, right? The beginning is to think. How am I communicating right now? How am I communicating right now? So you've heard 6 of the 7 frequencies so far. What would you say? What frequencies am I using most often in this setting? Would you say? What do you guys think? Let's see. And that's a great way of looking at it. I hope to bring common sense and rationale. Both will be severely lacking, as they are in many meetings. The group is Aliman's dealing with tomorrow lacks so many things. You will bring the sane and rational talk. The infuriating part will be the ignorance to the truth and logic. Well, we are in an election year here in the United States. I know you guys are in the UK, but all of us who live in the US can empathize with Aliman right now because there is a lot of ignorance to the truth and logic going on around us on all sides of the fence right now. So we're right there with you. We stand in solidarity with you, Aliman. Professor frequency in this particular setting. You think I'm bringing more professor? All right, that's good. That's good. I am bringing lots of information. So hopefully I'm using the professor frequency effectively. We'll see. Like I said, it's one of the ones that's harder for me to reach for. And so sometimes when I'm using it, so when the professor frequency is used not well, when it's used in kind of a ham-handed way, it gets boring. If you go into a class and somebody is bringing the knowledge to you, but you're bored, That's a poor use of the professor frequency because when the professor frequency is used properly, it doesn't bore you because you see, your eyes are opened to how this information is actually going to make you a better person. That's what's great about the professor frequency. Reach it. Be great. Let's go. What's up, Drizzy? How's it going? Hey, thank you so much for the subscription, by the way. Thank you for the 6 months. I appreciate you, my friend. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well today. Don't know what that was. Something just made a noise. It's supposed to be engaging, not just a lecture. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. That's how it should ideally be when the professor frequency is used. So that's Seer is number 6. And then number 7, the number 7 frequency. I know you can't even really see this. The number 7 frequency is the Maven. The Maven is a difficult one to explain. It also happens to be my primary frequency, according to the assessment. I really fought against this. In fact, when the 7 frequencies were first introduced to me through an online masterclass that Erwin did on these, I was sure that I was a motivator. I was sure that my core frequency was a motivator. And then I got to the part of the class where Erwin says, if you're not sure what your frequency is, you should ask the people who know you best. And so I went to the 2 people who know me best, my wife and our friend who lives with us here. I went to them and I said, okay, here's a rundown of the 7 frequencies. What do you guys, what's my primary frequency? And both of them said, oh, well, you're the Maven. And I said, no, guys, no, you got it wrong. I'm the motivator. And they said, no, 100%. You are the Maven. So then I took the assessment, and that actually is what came out as my number 1. So the Maven, it's their job internally to change the way that you see everything. The Maven is here not just to define your reality, but to break through the walls of it. It's kind of like being the Deadpool of communication. It's a constant piercing of that fourth wall. It's a constant breaking down of the things that frame anything so that you can see what's really possible on the other side of it. A lot of times people, and myself included, when we use this communication frequency, we are called heretics or dissenters or people who are, you know, people who are either hypercritical or who are just going to be, counter whatever anybody says. People who are argumentative. That's a lot of the times that we are. Now, I don't I don't use this Maven frequency very much with you guys. I don't use it very much in my streams. I don't use it very much in this venue. And one of the reasons for that is because as I was growing up, I was taught systematically that being a Maven was not appropriate for me. The kind of worlds and the structures that I lived in were such that see the Maven is the person that people go to for expertise on things. But I was taught from kind of an early age that unless you have done certain things, you do not have expertise on those things. And so as a result, even though I could see the connections and the breaks in reality, I I shied away from addressing them because when I did, I was kind of told, "Well, you know what, you're not old enough to know that yet. You know what, you don't have enough experience to know this yet. You know what, you don't really have a seat at this table. You just need to stand back and watch for a while." And this happened. I'm not just saying in my personal life, in my professional life, this is the way I came up. And so being a Maven was kind of difficult for me. And as a result, I don't use it as fluidly as I would like to. Now I'm starting to step more into it. I'm starting to try and challenge some of those things. Devil's advocate, yes, a little bit. But, you know, we carry some of that historical trauma into our communication just as we do in anything else, in our working geniuses. I talk a lot about how people with the genius of discernment, and I know several of them, the genius of discernment is the very intuitive genius. It's the person who has the great gut, who can see the patterns in the universe and connect the dots and make good calls even without a whole lot of information. Those are the people with discernment. But those people with discernment, if they're told their whole life up to a certain point that they that they're off base, that they're just guessing, that they can't possibly know that they don't have enough information, eventually what happens is they start to doubt themselves and they'll actually deactivate that discernment to the point where they will no longer trust their gut even though they have evidence that it's good. Enough about that. The basic need that the maven fills is curiosity. It's drawing people into the mysteries, drawing people into the wait a minute, there's a book that's written about communication. Like, why would we think about the way we communicate? Frequencies. What is that all about, right? Erwin is also a maven, by the way. But the high need is for a paradigm shift. The high need is for us all to look at everything that we are doing and everything that we are observing and to say, what I've decided is not it. There's more to explore. There's other ways that we need to look at this. We can turn everything in the universe on a thought, on a single thought. If we just change the way that we think about things, we can change the way that everything operates. That's relatable. I'm not sure which part. I think we might be on a bit of a delay, Head of Steel. So I'm not sure which part was relatable, but I'm glad. Hopefully, it was the part about that historical trauma that we have around our communication and around our geniuses. So that's the Maven. Again, great frequency. I love listening to Mavens because I get into that zone and I can go, oh yes, finally somebody who is just going to call it out, is going to call reality out for not being particularly real. In fact, I wrote in my book that I'm still working on furiously. I at this point I don't think it's going to be out by the end of the year, but I'm working hard on it. It's written. I'm just editing it. And I write about 3 different things that I believe keep people from elevating, from being great, from finding their moment of greatness. And the third thing that I talk about is that most people believe they live in the real world. And that's a problem because your real world isn't real. Not even real to you. And I won't go into the rest of that. You can read that book as well. But get this one first. This one's out. It's way better. It's a really, really good book. I love it. So those are the 7 frequencies of communication. And the idea is that if you can find your frequency and if you can hone your frequency, and then if you can begin to incorporate the other frequencies, that you can make change just with your words. The first line in the book is words are magic. And it's true. There's power in what you say. And if you can harness that power, you will be more effective at whatever you do than you have ever been before. So that's that. So hit me with questions if you have them. I'm going to get to some of your questions that you sent me beforehand. Give me a second to pull some of those up. Give me a moment. Let's see here. The first question I have. All right. So this first question comes from somebody who's been approached with a job offer. It's the same field they've been working in for a long time, but it's a management position. So we're talking about a leadership position. The upside is it's potentially a lot less work stress. And then the downside is that this person has become accustomed to working on their own from home, and that they would have to, in their own words, actually leave the house with pants on 5 days of the week, like a normal civilized person. I can understand this. As someone who works from home, it would take a lot to get me to go out of the house and have to put pants on every day. So this is relatable. Fairly certain the salary would be comparable to what I'm at now. Kind of struggling with the decision to actually apply due to the potential work style change. And the big question is, are there other non-obvious aspects that need to be considered when making this decision? So thank you for this question. Who sent it? I appreciate that. And here's how I would break it down for you. Anytime you're looking at a job scenario, and when all things are equal, so pay is equal in this case, You have to determine what's not equal, and you have to count the cost of what's going to be better, what's going to be better in your life. So what I'm hearing here is it's going to be less stress, but what's the trade-off? I don't know if you ever watch shows about magic, right? About you like so when I go to the gym every morning, this is a dumb analogy. When I go to the gym every morning, the old 90s show Charmed is on one of the TVs for some reason. I don't know why, with Alyssa Milano, and you know, that show is on every morning. And one of the things, this show is ridiculous. It's terrible. It does not hold up in any way. It's incredibly stupid. But and I can't believe how little clothing they let them get away with. And it's a whole thing. It's terrible. It's very bad. 90s fashion at its worst. Um but one of the things they always talk about in that show, because of course I can't keep my eyes off of it, even though I'm trying to run on the treadmill, is they talk about in magic how there's always a trade-off. There's always a cost. So whenever you get a benefit for something, there's always a cost to it. Now, when you're performing a spell, what you've got to determine is the cost enough to make you want the thing, or the other way around? If you want the thing, if you want the benefit, when does the cost become too great to pay? The question that you have to ask yourself is, yes, I'm going to get this sense of not having stress, not having to worry about things. What am I going to trade off for it? What's going to be the trade? Yes, one of them is going to be that I'm going to have to put on pants. But what is that really? What is that really? It's a loss of freedom to some degree. It's a loss of independence to some degree. The loss of control to some degree. So the question is, how much of that loss are you willing to pay? How much of that are you willing to give back in order to take this? Like travel, I loved Charmed. Oh, Charmed was great in the 90s. Style. I don't know if you've seen it recently. Don't think it holds up very well. It's kind of corny, kind of silly, but it was fun in the 90s. I agree. Like travel, efforts, less stress work, but extra time out of the house, etc. Exactly. Like, and of course, we could always do the pros and cons, but I would want you to look at it more in terms of cost. What's the cost? What am I giving up? And then the second thing that I would want you to look at is where is where is your future? Where is your best future? What are you driving towards? And I plug this into my book too. This is in the later chapters. But the idea is that your identity has to start with today, but your identity has to move you into a future, into a place where you're better, into a place where you're more effective, where maybe you're happier, right? I don't ever put happiness as the goal of anything in my life. Happiness is a side effect of living my life the right way. Good side effect. I love it. I drive towards it, but it's never a goal. But what's that future look like for you? And then what I would want you to do is I would want you to project a year out. Don't go 5 years, don't go 10 years. People do that. It's too long. I want you to project your future a year out and say, if I take this job in a year, what will my life look like? And is that life in a year, in the best case scenario, assuming everything goes great, is that life on my trajectory that's leading me to the future that I want? Or is it not? And that is how I would make that decision. So, for what it's worth, there you go. That's kind of some of the thought that I would apply to that. So I hope that helps. If not, follow up with me. You reached out to me via Discord. We can have all the conversations in the world, but hopefully that gives you a little bit. Let's see. I've got another one here. Wow, I have a bunch that came in today. This is great. So I'm just going to take them from the top. The first one says this: 20-year-old you is going for a job interview. Now you is going for a job interview. What have you learned in comparison, and how would you approach it differently? This is a great question. I don't know who asked this question, but I love it. It's an outstanding question. This is going to be something that's useful for anybody who goes on job interviews of any kind. So here's what I'll tell you. 20-year-old me went to a job interview, and here's what 20-year-old me thought was the win condition. of a job interview. 20-year-old me thought the win condition of a job interview was me convincing them that I should have the job. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go in, I wanted to impress them, and I wanted to prove to them that I was the person that they should hire. Cut to 50-year-old me. 50-year-old me doesn't go on many interviews anymore. Primarily because I work largely for myself. But I do a lot of sales calls where I'm working with an organization and trying to convince them that they should want to have me as a consultant. The way I approach it now is not from the lens of I need to impress you and show you that I'm the person for this job. The interview process now is very much more of a two-way street where I'm telling you very openly what I bring to the table and telling you if this is the person that you want, if this is the person that you need in this job, I am going to be that person. I'm going to love doing that job. Now, the other side of it is I'm actively trying to determine whether or not it is a job that I would love to do. Because, and hear me here, my friends, as Pat Lencioni says, everyone deserves a job that they love. So I'm never going to take a job that I don't love again. I'm too old for that. And honestly, even if you're young, you shouldn't have to do it. I don't believe in putting in the time. I don't believe in, doing the grind. I don't believe in those things. I believe that there's something out there for you that you will love if you approach it the right way and that you should find it. So that's the difference in 20-year-old me and 50-year-old me. 20-year-old me was trying to win the interview. 50-year-old me is having a conversation. Here's who I am. Here's what I bring. Is this the person you want? Tell me more about this job. Is this a job that I would love? Let me give you an example. So if I go to an interview right now, if I were to go to a job interview, here's what I would tell them. I would tell them, here's what I bring to the table. I have my working geniuses are enablement and discernment. Here's what that means. I love helping people. The one thing that drives me in all of the world, coming alongside people and helping them. But because I have discernment, I also am really, really good at helping people the way that they need to be helped because I have a really good instinct for knowing how people need help. I'm going to be really, really good at refining plans and at telling you which is right and which is wrong and which still needs some work. But I'm not going to be the best person to come up with something completely out of thin air. I have the ability to be creative. It's not something that drives me or gives me energy. It'll burn me out over time. And most importantly, it's also important that you know that I am not a person who is great at finishing things. If all I ever have to do is the same work over and over and over and over again, that's going to be hard for me. I might work a little bit slower than you want at times if it's something that's like that, where I just got to grind through it. I have systems in place to help me do that, but it's hard for me. So be aware that that's an area where I'll need support. I'm also not a great galvanizer. I'm not a great rah person. If you want somebody to come into a room and to get everybody together and on board and pointed in the right direction, I'm not going to be that person. I'll do it, but it's not natural. I don't love it. It'll burn me out if it's my job. So that's what I bring to the table, in addition to, of course, all my skills and my communication points and all that stuff, right? And then I'm going to ask, okay, so talk to me a little bit about this job. What are the actual tasks on a day-to-day basis? What am I going to do? If I'm going to have a team, who is this team? Like, what do they look like? Tell me more about the culture that I'm stepping into. Are you a culture of people that cares about thinking about the way that the organization operates? Or are you more about just getting the work done? What's important to you? And I'm going to interview the interviewer to find out if it's going to be a job that I'm going to love and a place that I'm going to love to work. So that's the difference between 20-year-old me and 50-year-old me, if that makes any sense at all. Hopefully it does. Let's see. Let's get through a couple more of these. I know we're at time, but so many people dropped questions in that I want to hit at least a couple of more. The next one says, how do you get past FOMO feelings, fear of missing out? I have two bits of advice for you on this to avoid fear of missing out. Number one is say yes. Say yes. I've learned this from so many people. I interviewed a guy on a podcast recently, and he's had this amazing life, and he makes all these hundreds of thousands of dollars and just gives it to a charity every year. And I said to him, how have you lived this amazing rich life? How have you done it? And he said, I just say yes to everything. He said, if it's not worth my while, if it's not worth my time, I'll say no to it. But if somebody is going to challenge me to something, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say, let's go. I'm going to say, let's jump in because he understands that even if he fails, even if that thing falls flat, he will have learned something that he can apply somewhere else. So, number one, I'm going to say yes. The number two thing that I'm going to say is I'm going to go back a week ago to where we talked about gratitude. Have a gratitude practice. Focus on the things that really drive the best moments in your life. Because when you maintain a focus on those things that are core to you, that are deep inside you, that you love and that make you feel loved, that fear of missing out it's gonna fade away to some degree. It's gonna go away. Because if you recognize that you have great things and have access to great things, sometimes reaching for the newest, shiniest thing is not always as attractive. And again, I'm not saying you should turn down opportunities because if you get an opportunity and it's in line with your trajectory, you should absolutely say yes. I'm going to go back to the leader that I was talking about, the young leader that I was talking about earlier that I was mentoring. This was her moment to say yes. And I'm glad that she did. So that's that. Let's do one last one here before we break. I've recently felt like I'm killing it in some tasks and failing in other tasks at work. How would you recommend I get balance? Very, very simple. The answer is I recommend you don't get balance. I recommend that you run as far away from balance as you possibly can. What do I mean by that? When everything is in balance, everything is equal. But you are not designed to be equal. The universe that you live in is not in balance. People think it's in balance, but it's not. The universe that you live in exists in a state of tension. Because if anything gets pulled too far in one direction, the universe is going to have a tendency to pull it back. That's not balance, that's tension. They're two different things. The difference is that in tension, in systems of tension, when you feel a lot of stress in one area, it's because you've been pulled very, very far in another direction. And that's okay for a season. Eventually, you will find your center. You'll find the center point of that tension. Sometimes you're going to have to shift into tension on the other one, and you're going to get a pull on this side of your life. But don't look for balance. Look for tension. Look for where you're at on the tension spectrum. That's going to be far more valuable to you. Now, here's the other thing I would recommend. Look at the tasks that you're doing well at and the tasks that you're not doing well at, and try to determine where those fall in regard to your makeup. I like to use the 6 types of working genius because it's a really good shorthand. So maybe this week I'm killing it at discernment. I'm really going through, I'm editing things, I'm evaluating things, I am blowing it up. But I am getting killed when it comes to tenacity. I am not getting everything done. There is paperwork that has been sitting on my desk for a week, and I am not getting to it anytime soon. And the boss has called me up 5 times to ask for that TPS report, but TPS report is not even on my radar. I am failing at those things. But I know that my geniuses, my working geniuses, are enablement and discernment. I know that I'm wired to evaluate and to help. And I know that I'm not wired to do a lot of things that are just checked off a list. So, in the one sense, that allows me to release some of my guilt and shame over not being good at those things because I wasn't made good at those things. I'm not wired for those. Now, that doesn't excuse me from trying to get better and from building systems that I have to build to get the things done. But it does help me understand I'm not bad because I'm not good at finishing things. I'm just not good at finishing things. That's not the way that I was made. That's not the way I was wired. But then it also allows me to examine what are those systems that I need that I don't have in place that I need to have so that I can finish those things. So for me, right, and an example of that is with tenacity work, it is I shut that door to the room, I shut off all notifications and everything else, and I work in Pomodoro. I do 25 minutes of deep, dedicated, focused work. I take 5 minutes off. I set a timer for this. I take 5 minutes, then I get back to 25 minutes. So if I can do that Pomodoro technique, if I can do that focused work, then that 5 minute relax, and then that 25 minutes, I can get through it. But I had to have that system in place. For you, maybe it's not that, right? Maybe your system needs to be around invention, around solving problems, around seeing things in a different way. You can create those systems. I can help you create those systems. So I guess here at the end, let me end with a commercial. Go visit my website, ideatrainingacademy.com. You'll learn a lot about me there and the types of things that I offer. I offer individual coaching. I offer communication coaching. If you need to make a big presentation and you're terrified, I offer coaching on that, one-on-one coaching, as much as you need. I offer group coaching sessions. If you want to get in with a group of other people who have a similar program to you, I offer consultation. If you have a business or if you work for a business that is stuck and needs help, I can help you get out of it. Why? Because I've been there a million times. So go visit me at ideatrainingacademy.com. You can follow me on all the socials at Andrew Burkham. That is the YouTube channel that you're on right now if you're on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, on LinkedIn. You'll find posts for me all over those places, and I would love to connect and interact with you. If you're new to the stream, either on Facebook or here on Twitch, please hit the follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on Facebook. I would love to have you as a regular voice in this conversation. I want to know more about you because when I learn more about you, I learn more about everything. Because every one of us contains a universe inside, and I cannot wait to see what's in those universes. Thank you, Emily, for hitting those links. I appreciate that. Did you say the Pomodoro? What's that? The Pomodoro. So Pomodoro, I believe, Pomodoro. Or maybe it's Pomodora. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But it is a technique that says you do 25 minutes you set a timer for 25 minutes. You do 25 minutes of focused work. And then when that timer goes off, you set a timer for 5 minutes and you completely break. And then when that timer goes off, you set another one for 25 minutes and you dive back in. If you can do 3 of those, if you take 90 minutes and do 3 of those segments, you will blow your productivity away. No joke. Doesn't matter who you are. If you do 3 of those a day, you will get more done in a day than you could possibly imagine. So there's a little life hack for you there at the end. There's the Discord as well that you can join. Well, listen, guys, that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I appreciate you more than I could possibly say. My name is Andrew Burkham. I am the founder and CEO of the Idea Training Academy. I hope you will visit the website at ideatrainingacademy.com. You can see some blog posts there. You can even sign up to get on a mailing list if you would like some of that dropped in your email every week. But even if not, you will find me here every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific, where I will be bringing you the best of what I'm learning. Because if we want to get better, we've got to be constant learners. And I, above all people, have more to learn than I've ever learned in my entire life. Thank you. No, thank you, guys. Try it out, Head of Steel. I think it'll work for you. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Let me just close by reminding you, the best is ahead of you. You may have had some good years. You may have had some great things going for you, but the best is ahead of you. If you stay dedicated, if you stay focused, if you learn how to use communication, if you learn how to use your geniuses, if you learn how to use your uniqueness to make an impact on the world, you will do things that matter. And as always, like I say, you have a moment of greatness that is waiting for you. but it's not coming for you. It's up to you to pursue that moment. Now, go be great.